Okay, hello everyone. Glad to have you guys here today to do this webinar on tuition and billing frequencies. Before we get started, I want to kind of veer off for a minute and address what's been going on with DanceWorks Online this morning. I'm sure most of you have been probably having problems getting in. What is happening is we have a web host that basically hosts one specific site. That site simply redirects you to another web host where all of your data is stored. The web host where your data is stored is working just fine. It's just simply that link that redirects you there. That web host is doing some, as they termed it, emergency maintenance this morning, and it's been going in and out all day. And I'm sure you guys have noticed it. For those of you who don't follow us on Facebook, if you haven't been able to get in, there is a link right here. We updated on our Facebook page. If you use this link, you can get into your data or get into your studio. You'll just need to log in using your email address and password versus just your username. So if you don't already follow us on Facebook, just go like us, and then you can use this link to get into your studio. Over the course of the weekend, we're going to be working on getting everything off of that particular web host. Unfortunately, they've just become more and more unreliable for us and for you. So we're going to work on getting everything off of that, so we don't continue to have these types of problems. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Hopefully, you guys haven't had too much of an interruption in your business. But again, if you go here, you can get into your data. So let's get going with our webinar and why we're actually here. So we're going to talk about setting up your tuition. I'm going to kind of go over the different ways that you can calculate the tuition in DanceWorks. I've been doing this for a couple of years now and talked to a lot of you guys, a lot of different studios every day. And I don't think I've seen one studio or two studios do tuition the same way yet. So I'm going to be showing you the way DanceWorks works with tuition. Just because it's the way I'm showing you doesn't mean it's the way you have to do it. Typically, it can be worked around, or we can make it work for what you're trying to accomplish. So if what I'm talking about doesn't seem to fit what you're doing, call us next week. And particularly if you're new and you haven't been using DanceWorks to do tuition yet, we'll talk. We can talk one-on-one and figure out a way to make it work for you guys. But hopefully this gives you a little bit better understanding of the way the program setup is designed for the tuition to be calculated. And then we'll talk about the billing frequencies, which are really nothing more than the different payment plan options that you guys can offer to your studio or to your customers. So let me jump into this. So to get your tuition set up, you are going to go to your admin, your settings, and the tuition screen. At the top here, you have the default tuition calculation method for new accounts. So whatever you have this set to, when you create a new account, that account will automatically be set to this type of tuition calculation. If you change this, it doesn't change the accounts that you've already created. So be aware of that. There is another way of doing that, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. But this simply just controls the after you change it, any new account you create will go to this setting. Now there are four basic ways that you can calculate your customer's tuition. You can calculate it by the specific class, by the table, which would be this top table, the class table, by time, which is the bottom timetable, and then finally manually. You also notice on these three that you have the option of either student or account. So what that means is if you choose any of those three and you set them, for example, to time student, if there are siblings on that account, it treats those siblings treats them separately, meaning it won't add their time together. So two students taking 2 hours each would be the same as another account with one student taking 2 hours, or really 4 hours. If you do time account, it adds the siblings together. So two students taking 2 hours would be the same as an account with only one student taking 4 hours. Where that comes into play is if your classes get cheaper, the more amount of time they take, it obviously plays in there. So something to be aware of. Hopefully I explained that clearly. But if you have questions about it, just let me know. And as you guys have questions, feel free to type them into the questions box there on your screen. And at the end, I will come back and answer as many as I can. Okay, so you can charge by class, by this table, by time, and then manually. Class means you're on each class that you create, you're going to put in a tuition amount. So if I go look at some classes and I look at their information page, whatever is in this box, whatever is in this tuition amounts field, is what that class is going to charge. So if your studio, maybe they they change the tuition amount based on specific classes. Some classes are more, some classes are less. This may be a good method for you. It allows you to customize the tuition on each and every class. All right, so let me go back. All right. Your next option is the tuition class table. What this table does is all it cares about is the total number of classes a student's taking or a family of students are taking. So in this table, as it's set up right now, if a student were taking 3 classes, their tuition would be $85. If you go this route and you use the table, so let's change this, then it doesn't care how long the classes are or what is on the tuition on the specific class page. All it cares about are the total number. So if you enroll them in 3 classes, it's going to be $85. If you enroll them in 4, it would be $108. All it cares about is the total. Doesn't matter how long the classes are. I just want to emphasize that because a lot of people get confused on that. So if this table works well if all your classes are the same length. If your classes are different lengths, and obviously longer classes typically cost more than shorter classes, a 90-minute class is obviously going to be a little bit more expensive than a 30-minute class, then this table might not be for you because, as I said, all it cares about is however many classes they are enrolled in. Now, moving on, you have your tuition timetable, which if you do that, if you have 30 minutes and 90-minute classes and 45-minute classes, this may be the best route for you. All this table cares about is the total amount of time either the student or the family of students are taking. In this example, if the child or siblings were in 3 hours worth of classes, their tuition would be $80. This doesn't care how many classes it takes to make up that 3 hours. It doesn't care what the individual lengths of the classes are. All it cares about is the total amount of time that they're enrolled in. So it could be 2 90-minute classes giving you the 3 hours. It could be 6 30-minute classes or 3 1-hour classes. Doesn't matter how you get to that total. All it cares about is the total. So that's the way this works. Now, a lot of people would get a little confused on entering the time into this particular table. This one's pretty straightforward, but the tuition timetable can be a little tricky. So when you're entering time into this, it's going to start at 0, and then you can choose the stop time of the first, whatever's in the first column here. What you're going to want to put there is your shortest class. So if it's 30 minutes, you're going to put that in. If it's 45, you're going to put that in. In this table, 0.25 represents 15 minutes. So 0.25 is 15 minutes, 0.50 is 30, 0.75 is 45 minutes, and then 1 equals 1 hour, of course. If you're going to have 45-minute classes, then you need to make sure you build this tuition table in 15-minute increments. That way, when you get all those little odd, because with 45-minute classes, you never know exactly where it's going to come out. It could come out to an hour and 15 minutes, could come out exactly at 2 or 3 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes. So you got to build it in 15-minute increments to make sure that you cover all those combinations of time. Doing it that way, obviously, you're going to have a few more entries than maybe someone who just does 30 an hour minute classes, but it will work really well for you once you have it done. Now, when you're doing this table, really what I try to tell people, don't get caught up in this start time. The start time of each row is going to be the same as the stop time of the row above it. If you notice, this box here always matches the box on the stop time right above it. So don't get caught up in that. All you really have to do is when you're adding an entry, just worry about the stop time. So if I were adding another one, it's automatically going to go to there. And then all I have to do is worry about the end time and the amount. And then one other thing, and this really kind of applies to both. A lot of studios I talk to now add a certain amount of time or possibly a specific number of classes. They may hit an unlimited amount. So maybe if the student's taking 6 hours of classes, if they take 7, it doesn't cost any more than 6. If you want to do that, all you have to do basically is enter up to that point. So if they go unlimited at 6 hours, just build your table up to 6. Anything above 6 should default to that amount for 6 hours. Same with the class table. If say they hit 10 classes, or I guess in this case 11 classes, and you want it to go unlimited at that point, then you just stop right there. So anything above, if they were enrolled in 12, should automatically default to $214. Okay, and then finally, the other way, and I'll show you this on an actual account, is to charge manually. That just means you're going to enter the tuition amount on their account yourself. Nothing to calculate. You just type in an amount. All you have to do is put it in when you actually enroll them, and then you're done. It'll charge them based off that amount, no matter which billing frequency they're on. So it's pretty straightforward, but I'll show you that on an actual account. Okay, a couple of other things on this settings page I want to go over. This recalculate tuition. You're probably not going to use this a whole lot. What this allows you to do is, let's say you've decided to change the way you calculate tuition. Maybe you want to go from the number of classes to the amount of time, or better yet, scratch that. If you change this table, let's say you increase your tuition, but kids are already enrolled in classes, when you hit this button, this recalculate tuition button, it updates everybody based on your new table. Also, if you see this, it says reset all manual tuition amounts to 0. Might be something you do at the beginning of a year. Anyone who's set to manual, it just zeroes them back out, and then you can go put in the correct amount. Don't have to use it. Obviously, you could just edit whatever amount's there, but it is a tool that way that you can use if you want to. As far as this page, that's pretty much it. Just remember, when you change this, it doesn't change the people who are already in there. It only changes the accounts you create after you make this change. Anything you do on this page, be sure to hit save at the bottom. Now, I said I was going to come back to this. So what happens if you do want to change the way you calculate everybody's tuition? What you'd want to do for that is actually go to your, I may have to find it actually. Give me just a second. Nope. Okay. If you want to change the way everyone's calculated, let's say you want to go from class to maybe time, you just go to admin, clear school data. That'll bring you to the screen that we're on here. All you have to do is check the box, calculate tuition to, choose whatever you want it to be, and then hit clear. It'll prompt you for a password. Just put in the password that you logged in with, and you should be good to go. And that'll reset all of your accounts to whatever you happen to choose there. All right, so let's look at an account and actually kind of walk through what the tuition looks like. And then once we're done, we'll go back to the billing frequency. So this account, sorry, is actually set to calculate tuition by class. So this student is actually enrolled in 2 classes. Based on their enrollment for the 2 classes that they're enrolled in, they are $90. So each class is $45. So what happens if I change it to another form, another way of calculating? So let's look at, let's change it to time. So I'm going to go time student. And I used to see a lot more people going by the account where they add the students together. I'm seeing less and less of that these days, though. Okay, so I'm going to change them to time student. I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to hit recalculate tuition. All right, so we've changed it. It's recalculated their tuition. So instead of the $90 they were at, it's now $55 based on our table on the settings page. I could also change that to, excuse me, bear with me just a second. I can also change that to the class table, or to the table. Let's see what happens if I do that. Hit my recalculate tuition button. So if you change a particular account's calculation before you enroll them, be sure you hit this recalculate tuition button after you change that. If you don't change anything here, I get a lot of people that call and say, hey, I'm trying to hit this recalculate tuition button, nothing's happening. Nothing's going to happen unless something changes here. All right, so based on taking just 2 classes and on our table, this student's tuition would now be $58. And then finally, the last thing, let's look at manual. So I would show this to you. It's very straightforward, manual. When you choose manual, bear with me, it gives you a field to put in their tuition. Whatever you put in this field is what they're going to get charged. When you choose manual, it does not care what numbers show up on this grid. It could be anything in the world, because this is going to be going off of one of the tables. But when you choose manual, whatever is in this field is what they're going to get charged, despite whatever you see over here. So just keep that in mind. All you have to do is hit save, and you're good to go. If I hit tuition charge, should come up as $90. This student has a discount, so there's the total, and then they have some discounts, and there's their discounted amount, and then with tax. Okay, so now let's look at the billing frequencies. Billing frequencies are really just an easy way of offering your customers different payment plans. Most of the studios I talk to these days may offer 1 or 2. I don't see a lot of studios doing 3 or 4 different billing frequencies anymore. I think that's something else that seems to be going away for you guys. And honestly, I don't blame you. It's a lot less to keep up with. But nonetheless, it's just different payment plans that you can offer to your customers. So to get here, you're going to go to Admin, Settings, and then Account Defaults. And you have your account billing frequency table here. Now you have the option of up to 9 different billing frequencies, but as I said, most studios these days, 1 or 2, maybe 3. So when you set up your tuition amounts, most studios put them in as a monthly amount. So that really becomes important when you're creating these billing frequencies. If you look, and you guys, most of you have probably noticed, each billing frequency has a multiplier. It's right here. Whatever this multiplier basically equals however many months are in that particular payment plan. So a monthly tuition plan would obviously only have 1 month in it. If your studio's big fall and spring season go from September to June, then you're going to have, that's 10 months. So if you wanted to offer someone a full year billing frequency where they basically just pay up front, you would use the multiplier of 10. And what I see is a lot of studios, they may do that. They may offer them either they can pay up front for the full year and they may get a discount, or they can just pay by the month. So you can discount these billing frequencies also. So if we look at this one for the full season, I've got a multiplier of 10 for the 10 months in my year. I'm giving these people a 10% discount for paying up front. And then one other thing on each billing frequency is that you can hide this from your customers online. So if you only have one or two, if you're going to let them choose when they register online, but you only want to give them the option of one or two, make sure you go into these other ones that you don't want them to see, and make sure you check this box, or make sure this box is not checked so that they can't see it. That way they only have the option to see the one or two that you want them to see. So if you look at this school, these top three are visible, but the rest are not. So when a parent registered online for our little test database, they would only have the option to do monthly, full year, or semester, which would be basically half a year. Again, these can be customized however you really want. You can do trimester, bi-monthly, whatever. The only thing to remember is the multiplier equals however many months are in that actual payment plan. Another thing you can do with these, if you're scanning down and you see the bottom of my list here, if you're a nonprofit possibly and you do scholarships, you can use these billing frequencies for your scholarships as well. Using the discount, you can put all those kids that are on a scholarship into a particular billing frequency, and you can group them together based on, I guess, however much or what percentage they're getting. So I've set up 3 scholarships here. One's is a quarter scholarship where they get a 25% discount. There's a half and then a full. And it's just an easy way for you to do that. When you actually go to charge their tuition, it'll show up as zero if they're 100%. It would charge them, but it would be zero, or it would give them 50% off. So an easy way of keeping track of that. So let's actually look at this in play here. So if we go back to our account, okay. So let me change I'm going to go back to time student, save, recalculate. All right. So $55. So currently this is on a monthly plan. So if I hit this tuition button, should come up 55 minus the discount that this student's on. So 55, there's their discount, and then there's with the tax. So easy enough. But let's say this parent wanted to pay everything up front. So I'm going to change them to yearly, to full season. Hit my tuition charge button. Now it's taken their $55, multiplied it by 10. This student already had a discount, plus they get an additional 10% for this particular billing frequency. So it comes out to $438.86 after the discounts, and then $469.58 after the tax. So basically, what setting these billing frequencies up allow you to do is automatically calculate based on however many months are in that particular plan. Another area that they're important is for recurring billing. We'll get into this a little bit more in depth in another webinar, but the program allows you to charge everyone in a particular billing frequency for tuition. So if you go to post tuition charges under your charges and payments tab, you can choose everybody that's on their monthly and charge them all at one time. It'll scan their account, look at the amount of tuition that they're set up for, and it'll charge their account the appropriate amount. You could do that for all your half-year people, or if you have bi-monthly or whatever. It allows you to post tuition charges all at one time. Again, we'll walk through this process a little bit more in another webinar, but that's really why these billing frequencies become important. Is it allows you lets the program do a lot of the work for you. Lets it do the calculating. lets you charge everybody at once so that you're not spending all your time charging people's accounts and figuring out how much their tuition's supposed to be. Let the program do the work for you so you guys can do what you want to do, which is teach people to dance. Um, that's pretty much it as far as our presentation. If you guys have questions, I know this wasn't quite as long as usual. I'll be happy to answer any of them I can. So feel free to send me some questions, and I'll kind of read them out loud and do the best I can to answer them for everyone. Someone's asking for me to go over the multiplier again. Okay, I'll be happy to do that. Let me get there. Okay, so each billing frequency obviously has a multiplier. Actually, let me start on the tuition page. So when you build your tuition table, most studios put these amounts in as a monthly amount. So let's say a student's taken 2 classes, their tuition's $58 for 1 month for those 2 classes. So with the billing frequencies and these multipliers, basically the multiplier is however many months are in that particular payment plan or billing frequency. So if I'm doing a full year and my full year is 10 months long, then I'm going to take that $58 and I want to multiply it by 10. And that's what I'm going to put as my multiplier. If I'm doing a half year, and so a half year is only 5 months, then again, that's going to be my multiplier. The multiplier is basically however many payments or however many months appear in that particular payment plan. Someone's asking how to offer a discount for multiple students. There's a number of ways you can do that. Related to what we're talking to today, if we go back to tuition, again, you have some options here. Now, as I said, and I may not have explained this very well earlier, you can do either by student or by account. So what a lot of one way of basically discounting classes for siblings would be to charge by account, so that you're adding the students together and you're summing them up into one. Basically, you're treating them as one student. So let's look at it this way. If I'm one student and I'm taking 2 hours of classes, my tuition is $55. Now, if I do table account and I have 2 students, if I have 2 sisters that are both taking 2 hours of class each, if I go by time account, I'm going to add them together. So that's basically the same as one student taking 4 hours. So the tuition amount for 4 hours of class is $100. So if I have 2 siblings that are taking 4 hours total, they're only charged $100. If I did them by student and I treated them separately, their tuition would actually be $110. So they've essentially just gotten a $10 discount. That's one way of doing it. Another way you can do sibling discounts is using the discounts page, where you can just create whatever kind of discount you want. We see a lot of these, and a lot of them are just called sibling discount, or maybe one sibling or 2 student discounts, and it may be so much. They may have an additional discount if they have 3 students. That's a little bit more, and all you have to do is assign that discount to the to the account or to the particular student, depending on how you do that. So that's 2 ways of doing it, kind of depending on exactly how you want to do that. Bear with me. Some of these questions are a little bit longer, so it's just taking me a minute to read them. Um, Lisa, I think the question is this particular studio may offer allow students to basically work off some of their tuition, doing ins and outs around the studio. If you want to do that, I think honestly your best bet is just simply to enter a credit onto their account. I think your best bet is just to charge them tuition like you would anyone else, and then on their account, just go to the transactions page, figure out how many hours or what they've worked off, and you can just enter a credit. I think that's going to be your best bet. Just use the enter credit button and you can put in the amount and then just apply that credit to their tuition. That will automatically deduct basically the same as a payment. I think that's going to be your best bet. And the good thing about that is it allows you to run reports on how much you've given out in credits like that. So I think that's probably going to be your best bet. The next question is this studio has their parents or students prepay when basically when they register for the fall. They register in May, but they have them pay that first semester, or I'm sorry, that first month tuition up front. The question is, will it carry over to the next session? The transaction itself, absolutely. The only thing you got to be sure you do there when you charge them, make sure you're in that fall session. And this actually goes to another question that I got asked. Um, when you're enrolling students for future sessions, it doesn't particularly matter which session you're actually logged into. I happen to be logged into the 2013-14 session right now, but let's say I were in my spring, let's say it was May and I was in my 2012-2013 session and I was enrolling kids for summer and for this coming fall. It doesn't matter which session you're logged into when it comes to enrolling them. If I go look at one of these students, this is obviously our test database, which is why you see the silly names. I'm just going to pick the session I want to enroll them in and click enroll. It'll pull up that class list and let me enroll them in whatever classes. So it doesn't matter which session I'm in for that. However, when I go to build them, when I charge them the tuition for that session or for that month, it goes it does become important at that point that you be logged into the correct session. If your tuition amounts are different or they happen to be enrolled in a different amount of classes, so their tuition amount is different based on that, it's going to charge whatever is right here. Uh, right here. So if this student were enrolled in 3 classes in my upcoming fall and the tuition were $85, well, if I do it from this session, it's going to charge them $55. So just make sure you're logged into the appropriate session when you charge tuition. But the answer to the question about the transaction, yes, it'll carry over as long as you don't clear out any transactions. Uh, no matter what session you're in, their transaction page is always going to look the same. Uh, each session shares the same account and student information, so which includes the transactions. So unless you delete them, then it'll be there. The question is, if you're using manual tuition, how can you apply a discount? Well, there's a couple of ways. One, if I mean, honestly, the easiest way is you just put in whatever you put in the field, the manual tuition field. You can just put in the discounted amount. So let's say their tuition should be $100 and they get a 10% discount for some reason. You can just put in $90, or you can use the discounts tool here. You can create whatever the discount happens to be and just assign it to either that student or the account overall. I went over this in a previous webinar, but I think some of you probably weren't here. So let me kind of run back through this because it's really important with these discounts. You can use this discounts tool to apply a discount either to the account or to the individual student. If you apply it to the student, that discount only applies to that student. So if there are siblings, you might have a situation where one sibling gets a discount, the other one does not. So you want to make sure you only apply it to the correct student. If you apply it to the account itself and there are siblings, that discount is going to apply to everyone on that account. So you got to be careful with that and make sure you do that correctly. That kind of goes back to the multiple student discount. Some studios, when they do the multi-student discount, they only apply it to the second or third child. They don't apply it to the first student. So again, that goes back to that. You want to make sure that you apply it to the correct thing. So just be careful with that. I have an email question asking how we send emails out of DanceWorks. You actually answered your own question. Yes. Basically what we do is we use the settings that you put in. Let me get over there. Email setup. We use these settings that you guys put in to connect to your email provider server. In this case, it would be Gmail. We basically connect to their server. We pass off your email. They actually do the sending. Works the same way if you're sending it from your cell phone, if you're sending it out of Outlook. Those work exactly the same way. The other part of the question is, do we send them one at a time through their server or in a big batch? If you're sending a mass email, let's say it's going to 300 people, we break it down into smaller groups using this group size right here, which you guys can control. When you get your program, when you first sign up, this group size is set to 50. I think 20 is probably the best. 20, 25 is a good number. So if you're sending let's say you just type an email and you're going to send it out to all your accounts. So let's say it's 300 people. What's going to happen is it's going to break that 300 people down into groups of 20. Now it doesn't affect the way you guys do anything. You'll just hit send, but the program will connect to your server, your email provider server. We'll pass off 20 recipients in the message. We'll disconnect. We'll reconnect, pass off the next 20 until it's done. Doesn't affect the way you guys actually send it. But what that helps do is keep you guys from getting flagged for spam. Now the question there is, well, why wouldn't you just make the group one? Well, because that ends up taking too long. And these different email providers have different limits that they do. And if you're not done connecting, or if you attempt to connect to their server too many times, they'll kick you out. So if you do one and you're trying to send it to 300 people, if we have to connect 300 times, chances are they're going to say, wait, this is too many connections. You're trying to spam us. And they're going to block us. So 20, 25 is a pretty good number and helps keep you from getting flagged as spam when you're trying to email your customers. Question about a future webinar. Are we going to do one on running reports? Yeah, we'll probably get to that in probably either late September or early October, I'm assuming. But if you have a question about running reports or a specific, that's a little bit more urgent than that, give us a call next week and we'll walk you through it. There's a question about when a parent looks at their account, do they only see the current month? The parents are able to see any unpaid charge that appears on their account. So if you've charged their account for tuition and they haven't paid it or have not paid it in full, that's what they see. They don't see. It's not a full list of all the transactions from forever. It's only the things that have not been paid. That way they can, if they if you guys accept credit cards and they can pay online, it'll allow them to do that. But that's all they see. Back to the email. Where do you find the SMTP server? I don't know who you have, but typically I find that if you just go to Google and type in your email provider's name and type, so let's say it's Gmail, just Google Gmail SMTP settings, or whoever it is, AT&T SMTP settings, you'll typically find what you're looking for. The question was, can you change the charge codes in each session? You can, but I mean, one session's, I mean, it's always going to be the same. Once you change them, that's the way they appear everywhere. So you can change them, but they're whatever you have in your charge codes list here is what's going to appear everywhere. Now we're working on some things to kind of improve this. I don't know exactly when it's going to be available. We're going to basically set it up to where you can hide charge codes that you might not be using any longer, and things like that. You can hide them from the list, but we just haven't gotten there yet. Hillary, give me a call next week. I saw your question. I didn't quite fully understand it, and I think it's going to be a little bit more in depth of an answer than we want to get into here. So give us a call or shoot me a ticket, and we'll address that. All right, guys, we got questions seem to be slowing down. Anybody else have any questions? I'll give you another minute. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap this up a little bit early today. Lauren, I saw your question earlier too. I was trying to find it. Let's talk about. I'm going to say that to you too. Give us a call next week or shoot me a ticket, and let's talk about that one-on-one. That's a little bit different of a situation. I think we can figure it out, but I don't think we want to try to go that in depth here today. So give us a call or shoot me a ticket, and we'll hash it out together. I haven't gotten any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Just want to remind everyone, if you guys are still having problems getting logged into DanceWorks using your bookmarks, make sure you come here on our Facebook page. Like us on Facebook if you haven't already. When issues pop up, we typically update it here anyway, so it's a good way of, if something happens, you can go here and see what's going on. But this will certainly let you get logged in. We apologize for all the issues this morning. Unfortunately, as much as we hate to say things are out of our control, this one actually was not anything that we could really do about it. But if you use this link, you will be able to get into your studio using your email address and your password. So be sure if something pops up, if it goes back down again today, you use that. It'll be there if you need it. Other than that, guys, appreciate everyone coming out. Hope you got something out of this. If you have questions that you didn't want to ask today, certainly feel free to give us a call, or you can go up to your help menu and hit submit a support ticket and send us your questions. Just be sure you're really detailed. That'll save you some time and us some time, and us having to ask you so many questions and going back and forth. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.